and went on and had 44 terms after it.
How do you know this?
And he gave the first answer off the top of his head.
It worked.
And went home and found the rest of their answers and presented them the next day. It's a popular legend.
They didn't have Facebook back then,
does
so they
all
had plenty of
math
free
come
time.
from France?
That's right. Pardon?
Does all math come from France?
No, but polynomials and functions. René Descartes wrote this book. There was a big,
Roman numerals?
Yes.
all the big advancements in graphing, starting with René Descartes and moving on. That was all happening in France right around 1600 for a while, for some reason. Then it moved to England and Germany, who almost went to war over who invented calculus.
Wow, that's sad.
True story. Come on over here, Eliza. Okay, so
That's what happens when you're in charge of the tripod.
I don't care.
They at least have to stand up.
okay,
I would.
finding an inverse function. Finding an inverse function. Okay, we'll start with lines. Y equals 5x. Here's an example. Y equals 5x minus 3. It's a nice line. Y equals mx plus b. You guys should remember it has a slope of 5 and a y-intercept of negative 3.
I thought the 3 was a B.
What did I say?
Oh, same thing, never mind. I just...
MX plus B.
Okay, thank God. Alright, I'm just... Maybe my short-term memory's gone. Don't do that to me. Here's step 1 in finding an inverse function. Flip the x and y. Switch
So
the x and y.
it's
No, I'm
gonna
not going to
be-
say flip. I'm going to say switch, because flip sounds like reciprocal.
So it's gonna be...
So it's going to be x equals 5y minus 3.
Oh, never mind.
Alright? I'm just switching the x and y. Step 2. Solve for y. Okay, so now I'm going to solve this for y. So I have x equals 5y minus 3. What's my first move going to be? Going back to last fall here. Pardon?
Plus 3.
Plus 3 to both sides.
And then you... Yeah.
So I have x plus 3 equals 5y. Now what do I do?
Divide it all by
Divided
5.
by 5.
Divide it all by 5.
So you get 3/5.
Slow down, cowgirl. You have to divide everything by 5. You have to divide the x plus 3 by 5
And multiply y by 5.
and the 5y by 5.
Yeah, but those cancel out.
These two cancel out over here.
Yeah.
Yes.
So your
So-
answer is y equals
X
x
over
plus
5.
3 over 5.
Yep. Now, if you're able to do this, if this works, take your answer and replace this y with that notation. So you're saying the inverse function is x plus 3 over 5. The last step is always to write it with the inverse notation.
Always with -1?
Yes.
Alright.
The idea was this originally was f of x equals 5x minus 3. Its inverse is x plus 3 over 5. You may think you see some patterns to this, but the patterns are kind of confusing and don't always hold up well. It's always a good idea to work out the algebra.
Is this what our homework's on tonight?
Yes, and there's a couple other things I have to say about it. Any questions on this, though?
It's hard.
Well, when do we start doing this with things other than lines? I mean, we're going to look at polynomials and parabolas and all sorts of things like this.
Awesome.
Lines are the easiest ones.
Ah.
A couple of quick words about this. Let's see.
Yeah, I was.
Okay. Here's a quick hint, I should say. Hint. All non-horizontal lines can be inverted to functions. Okay? Here's one hint. Here's another hint for when we move beyond lines. Well, think about this for a sec. All non-horizontal lines can be inverted to functions. Okay, so if you see y equals mx plus b, you can turn it. It has an inverse function. It's real. You can find it. Let's do an example of one you can't.
No.
Where I won't even look at. I just won't even. Let's see. Observations. That's what I'm going to call this part. Some of your guys' polynomials looked something like this, right?
Should we write this?
Yeah. Put this in as an example. You guys remember graphing some polynomials like this?
Yeah.
There's one.
Yes.
If I toss this at you and I say,
This is ballerina.
it is a ballerina, very good, and I say, find me its inverse function, what is the short, correct response you could say off the top of your head? Find me its inverse function. Bingo. What do you think? Well, Sarah's got a guess as to what happens when we switch the x and y here.
It would
It
turn it on
becomes
its
a
side.
non-function.
Well, sort of. What happens with these things... Well, there's a graphical thing about these things. Every inverted function is actually what you get if you rotate the original function 90 degrees and then flip it. Okay? Because of that, you can do a test. This is a function itself, right? It passes
What?
a vertical line test.
Yes.
Okay? Its inverse, does it pass a horizontal line test?
So it doesn't work.
Well, it doesn't pass a horizontal
Well,
line
its inverse
test.
would pass a horizontal line test.
Its inverse would pass a horizontal line test. Very good, yes.
But its inverse doesn't pass the vertical.
Correct.
You're confusing me with all this horizontal line.
Yeah, no, it's switching back and forth too quick. If a horizontal line test is failed,
But I'm right.
the inverse function does not exist. Good trick question. Does this okay? Or actually, there's two. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you what the trick is. Two ways to say this. If I ask, does this function have an inverse? The answer is yes. Everything has an inverse. You can always flip the x and y and get something. Okay? If I ask, does this have an inverse function? The answer is no, because if I invert it,
It's no longer a function.
the result will not be a function. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Everything has an inverse, but not everything has an inverse function.